Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 14th, and we're here for our Board of Aldermen meeting. If the city clerk could call the roll.
Alderwoman Buse.
Here.
Alderwoman Patel.
Here.
Alderman Fader.
Here.
Alderman Hummel.
Here.
Alderman York.
Here.
Alderwoman Waldman.
Here.
Mayor McAndrew.
Here. All right, this is the time and
I'm sorry, Anna Crane.
Oh.
Here. And Kevin O'Keefe.
Here.
Thank you.
This is the time in our meeting where if there's any public requests and petitions, I don't see anybody in chambers. That's not staff. Is there anybody online? Great. So we will move forward with the first item on our agenda, which is a lot consolidation plat. And I will open the public hearing and request proof of publication.
Great. This is a lot consolidation plat for 500 and 510 South Hanley Road. This is a public hearing and subsequent ordinance to consider approving a subdivision plat for the consolidation of two lots to create one. Each lot is zone C1 and developed with a commercial building and service parking. The lots are now under common ownership, and the proposed consolidation would facilitate construction of an addition to connect the two buildings. The new lot would total just over 16,000 square feet. The Plan Commission recommended approval of the lot consolidation at their meeting on October 6th, and staff recommend approval of the proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Anna. I'll open the discussion. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I'll just share that this came before the Planning Commission last week and was very well received. This is where the dental office goes back, and there's a parking lot, and the old dry cleaner was behind there, and they're expanding it into the dental office. The one hitched with the Architecture Review Board with some of the materials and looking more at what might be the best materials to use for the site. But as far as the lot consolidation, it seemed like it was very well supported.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I was just going to ask, it's going to be still used by the dental office and just expanded into a larger dental office.
That's-
Basically, they're expanding.
Yes,
Okay.
it'll all be a dental office, yes.
Great. Thank you.
And Susan, it sounded like they were still going to be amenable to using that lot for parking in the evenings. That wasn't that a discussion?
Yeah, that came up
too?
as well,
Just because
that,
people use that a lot for the restaurants in the area and.
Correct. Yeah, without it, when after business hours, that's something that they're very much open to. And there was no change in the footprint as far as permeable surfaces and water and the surrounding neighborhoods. So it all seemed pretty straightforward.
I got nothing. I don't have any issues with the consolidation. I just have a general question about lot consolidation, though. When we do something like this, does it have any impact going forward on parking requirements for either of the buildings that might not otherwise be there? Or is that something that's just unique to this district? It doesn't apply? Can you help me with that?
Sure. So the consolidation plat doesn't have any impact on the parking regulations. That's based on the use and the density. So in this case, under the existing structure and existing parking, if the use that's replacing that existing use, so in this case, the dental office is expanding to where the dry cleaner was. So if our parking code felt that the new use would create more parking demand under the code, then they might have to provide additional spaces depending on what scope of work they're doing to either expand or enhance the property. In this case, the scope that they're doing for the new use, the dentist to expand, won't trigger a requirement for any additional parking beyond what is already provided between the two properties.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Susan, Anna, so are they keeping the building? Are they refacing the building? Or are they actually tearing the building down and put a new building up?
They're keeping the building and refacing and actually joining them together. So it's one building. And the parking, the old dental office only had street parking. So actually, having that lot as part of the building, I think addressed the parking as well. But yes, they're keeping that. And that was one question because they're putting, and I'm sure Anna can say this better than I can, but they're putting different facades on to match the brick and the coloring. And there was a question on the quality of the materials and longevity and things like that for the neighborhood. And that's why it was continued as far as the Architecture Review Board approval and coming back next time with approvals on that. But yes, keeping the buildings.
Okay, thanks.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Alderwoman Buse.
Close public.
And there's nobody online either. No. Nobody. Got it. Ms. Randolph, your hand was raised. Would you like to speak? Go ahead. Oh, you're muted. Maybe can you unmute yourself?
She's the owner of Nettie's. So she's
Oh,
probably on the
got it.
line for that.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry about that. I
No,
don't
you're
know.
fine.
I just raised my hand because you asked if anyone was online and I'm not sure.
Yes, no, don't worry about it.
Either.
Okay. Yeah, no, don't worry about it for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll introduce Bill.
I'll
number-
close the public hearing.
Sorry.
Now you can.
I'll introduce Bill number 7101, approving a lot consolidation plat for 500 and 510 South Hanley Road to be read for the first time by title only.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. City Attorney?
Bill number 7101, first reading, an ordinance providing for the approval of a plat to consolidate certain property known as 500 and 510 South Hanley Road in the city of Clayton, Missouri.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderwoman Buse?
I move that the board give unanimous consent to consideration for adoption of Bill number 7101 on the day of its introduction.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the minutes reflect that the board has given unanimous consent.
I introduce Bill number 7101, approving a lot consolidation plat for 500 and 510 South Hanley Road to be read for the second time by title only.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. City Attorney?
Bill number 7101, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance providing for the approval of a plat to consolidate certain property known as 500 and 510 South Hanley Road in the city of Clayton, Missouri.
Alderwoman Buse,
Aye.
Alderwoman Patel,
Aye.
Alderman Fader,
Aye.
Alderman Hummel,
Aye.
Alderman York.
Aye.
Alderwoman Waldman,
Aye.
Mayor McAndrew.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. So the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Hopefully everybody saw that there is a revised meeting date. One of the discussion dates was Juneteenth, so that's just got moved to June 12th, the Friday before. Does anybody have any other? Yes, Alderman Fader.
Just to point out that I occasionally do read the minutes. I did find a typo and I forgot to call June, but as long as we're doing this. And the section that dealt with it's page 15 of the minutes where Mark Ellebrecht addressed the board. And in the third line where it says were, W-E-R-E, it should be where, W-H-E-R-E. Other than that, the minutes were wonderful. Thank you.
That's a lawyer.
Anybody else? Alderwoman Buse? Or, no, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion?
Alderwoman Buse,
Aye.
Alderwoman Patel,
Aye.
Alderman Fader,
Aye.
Alderman Hummel,
Aye.
Alderman York.
Aye.
Alderwoman Waldman,
Aye.
Mayor McAndrew.
Aye.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, hopefully you can hear me. I just want to let you know that we approved the liquor license for Nettie's Pizza. That was kind of part of our consent agenda, so there wasn't any discussion about it, so you are good to go. Yeah.
I heard they might be opening in about 2 weeks. Because
That's
that's the
exciting.
question we always ask
That's right.
if we talk about
That's
it.
great. All right, we'll move into our city manager report, which the first item is an easement agreement with MSD.
Yes, this is an ordinance to approve multiple agreements with Metropolitan Sewer District. As part of the planned renovation and expansion of the Clayton Municipal Maintenance Facility, the city requires the execution of multiple agreements with MSD, including a storm sewer easement agreement, a sanitary sewer agreement, a BMP maintenance agreement, and an encroachment agreement. The overall purpose of these agreements is to formalize the necessary land rights needed for the municipal renovation project, ensuring that the newer sewer infrastructure and stormwater management facilities can be perpetually maintained and regulated. Staff recommend approval of the ordinance authorizing the execution of 4 agreements with MSD. Also here tonight is our Director of Public Works, Matt Malik, if there are any questions.
Thank you. I'll open the discussion. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Matt?
I just have one.
Yep.
I might as well make Matt stand up and come up with one. Just for due diligence, if nothing else, I'm assuming we don't really have a lot of say on where these go in order for us to build the public works garage the way we want to.
Yeah, basically, yes. A majority of these easements are really rectifying items that are already in place and capturing them. I'd say 75% of these lines are already in place, but were just never captured by easements whenever the facility was originally constructed. And the encroachment agreement itself is because the site is so tight, we have limited areas. So the things we're putting on top of the encroachment agreement areas, excuse me, can be moved if need be for sewer maintenance. But whenever you build anything on top of an existing easement, they require the encroachment agreement. But part of it's rectifying and capturing existing lines that are already running through the
Gotcha.
site.
So there's some stuff that's already there.
Yeah.
It's not like you're building new stuff in 75%-ish of the cases.
Right, we're relocating part of the sanitary sewer, which is new, but the storm is capturing what's already there, and so is half of the sanitary sewer easement.
Okay. Do you have any reason why it wasn't captured before?
I would just, based on the age of the facility and whenever they came through there, it was, portions of it could have been constructed before MSD was even chartered.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Thank you.
Alderwoman Buse?
I introduce Bill number 7102, approving easement agreements with the Metropolitan Sewer District related to renovations, expansion of the Clayton Municipal Maintenance Facility, to be read for the first time by title only.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. City Attorney?
Bill number 7102, first reading, an ordinance approving multiple agreements with Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District related to the Clayton Municipal Maintenance Facility Project 8300 Shaw Park.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move that the board give unanimous consent to consideration for adoption of Bill number 7102 on the day of its introduction.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the minutes reflect that the board is giving unanimous consent.
I introduce Bill number 7102, approving easement agreements with the Metropolitan Sewer District related to renovations and expansion of the Clayton Municipal Maintenance Facility, to be read for the second time by title only.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. City Attorney?
Bill number 7102, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance approving multiple agreements with Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District related to the Clayton Municipal Maintenance Facility Project at 8300 Shaw Park.
Alderwoman Buse,
Aye.
Alderwoman Patel,
Aye.
Alderman Fader,
Aye.
Alderman Hummel,
Aye.
Alderman York,
Aye.
Alderwoman Waldman,
Aye.
Mayor McAndrew. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is an art donation. That's will be located in Anderson Park.
Yes. So the Clayton Community Foundation has received an offer for a donation of public art entitled Harum Pastor, which translates as Three Shepherds. Anderson Park was decided to be an ideal location for the artwork due to its expansive acreage, but also as a strategic asset that will help shape the identity and robust amenities of the park. CCF will negotiate the long-term loan for the artwork and or physical acquisition. The Parks and Recreation Committee and the Public Art Advisory Committee have recommended approval of the donation and the proposed placement. Staff recommend approval of the installation of the public art in Anderson Park, as well as CCF's management of the donation and installation in coordination with Parks and Recreation staff. Also here tonight is our Director of Parks and Recreations, Tony Searing, if you have any questions.
I'll open the discussion. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll just say that this did come before the Art Advisory Committee, and it's a pretty awesome piece, and I'm sure Tony can elaborate on that. And also the location where it is as you come into the dog part. It's just an open area, and it really softens it and kind of brings it together. And again, I think there's a lot of excitement around that coming. The only concern people had is people knowing that this was actually Clayton and not Ladue. So aside from that, it's a really great donation that we've secured, and thank you to Parks and Rec and everyone involved in doing that.
Did, it was hard to find much about the artist online. And I feel like people at the PAC are very informed on artists. Did anybody talk about that?
There was-
Where he's from or?
He's Hungarian,
Okay. Yeah.
1900s. Trying to remember that the funny part of it is, well, personally, my husband's from Budapest, his mother is. And so we actually went over there last year for the first time forever. And I'm pretty darn sure we saw there's this is one of three of the same cast.
Okay.
And it's in the public art park in Budapest. And I'm pretty sure we saw it, or else I'm just imagining that. And then, so when I saw this come up and this Hungarian artist and everything else, so it's quite large. It's on a marble slab. And again, but there wasn't a lot of talk about the artist. Tony, do you know anything else to add to that? I think they think there's one on the East Coast and the one in Hungary and the one here for that particular piece.
Correct. That's what I understand as well. There really wasn't a lot of information out there about him. He did painting and sculptures, and he did a lot of terracotta work originally. So yeah, but this is bronze and they're hollowed.
Yeah, and the only other thing I know about him is the Hungarian artist at that time did a lot of these pastoral outdoors type work of community.
Yeah, like agriculture with like a farming emphasis.
And then, so the base, is that all part of it, or do we create our own base?
We will have to have a concrete base poured.
Okay.
And again, the CCF it will incur all the expenses for that.
Thank you.
And they're also paying attention to how to maintain the greenery around it, how to mow the lawn and everything
Yes.
else around it to make
Yeah,
sure that
so
can
that-
be easily done.
Yeah, so the mowers won't go right up next to it, and yeah. And then it'll be placed as you're heading, if you go down into the park right here, right before that first parking space. So again, it'll be a nice entryway into the park, and it should be even visible from Clayton Road.
And I know there's a sign, just because Susan's comment about it being Ladue. I mean, we have a nice sign that says Anderson Park, but does it say City of Clayton on that sign?
No.
No,
No.
that was a concern. It's
Yeah.
apparently it
That's
says it
okay.
right over here somewhere, but people were like, yeah, but people might think this.
Yeah, that was,
Okay.
Not that it matters, but
right, no, that is the only park signage that we have that's different from our other ones at the behest of the donor.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
No further we talked about this at Parks and Rec and it was supported. Yeah, I think it's great.
I reviewed the graphic with Louis at my house. And although he knows nothing about shepherds, he did like the pieces. And so I think
Excellent.
he suggested a yes vote on this. Can I ask Tony just a quick, as long as we have you up, can you give us like a minute's worth of how this dog park is doing these days?
It's not doing as well as it had been in the past. When the new dog park when the new fence was reinstalled after the MSD project, the slats are just a little bit wider than they had been previously, which is allowing for smaller dogs to perhaps get through those slats. So one of the things we're challenged with is that it is, a floodplain. So what we did is we put some like windscreen fencing that the water can go through on one side of the dog park to try to help alleviate that issue of the dogs sneaking out. So we did have our annual Bow Wow barbecue down at the dog park at the end of September. We had staff that came out there. They could renew memberships while we were there, and we're actually going to make a big push for that this year so people know of the enhancement that we made to the fence. So, and that should meet the MSD requirement because water would still be able to flow through that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Gary, I don't recall that we talked about this at CCF at all.
I don't either.
Okay, so not that that matters, but I'm curious about the history of this, given that it's an existing piece and How did it come to be offered to CCF? Where is it now? And why was it decided to go where it's going? I just interested in that.
It's in a personal residence right now, and that resident is moving. She does not live in Clayton, but it's in a home. She is moving away from that home into, I believe, into a high rise in Clayton, which is why she wanted to donate it to the city of Clayton. And I can't speak to why it wasn't talked about at CCF, but we did look at all of our parks and we felt like this was a really good fit for this park because it is a larger piece. It would really overwhelm some of our smaller parks. And we felt like we already had several pieces of artwork in Shaw Park. So we felt like this could be a great place to really start to activate Anderson Park as well, too.
So, and I'm curious, I'm not familiar with all of our public art, but the ones I'm thinking of are generally elevated on a pedestal that I'm thinking of. These are right on the ground where small kids could climb on it. And so are we contemplating anything, whether it's from a care or liability standpoint regarding that issue?
One of the things that we talked about in specifically with the mowers right up next to that was maybe putting like a landscaping bed around it. Maybe ivy, maybe annuals, perennials, so that it isn't so attractive for people to climb on it. But we also have the elephant on a tricycle that's next to the treetop playground at the north end of Shaw Park. That is not on a pedestal as well. So I think it depends on the piece of art. But this obviously was designed for and currently sits like right on the ground on that slab.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't say that there's, I mean, we don't go to the dog park as much because my dog's has some anxiety issues that she's dealing with, but there aren't a lot of kids that play in that green space either. People really stay in the dog
Yeah.
area. That's been my perception.
Right, no,
So,
I would agree, yeah.
And it's set back from the dog park. It's not
Yes.
right up against anything.
For several reasons, yeah, so that it's not an
Yes, for several
attractive
reasons,
nuisance
yeah.
for dogs as well, so yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Rick, are you done?
Yeah.
So I'm concerned about, well, I want to think through, it says all insurance liability maintenance will be paid by the donor. So if it's a loan, I get that, but if it's a gifted, like how do we know the donor is going to keep doing that? What kind of liability do we take on if the donor stops? Or for that matter, what do we take on if CCF goes away at some point?
Really, probably what we would take on is the annual maintenance and care, which we already do we have an annual maintenance agreement for the other pieces of art that are in the park that are not insured and sponsored by CCF, so it would roll into that as well.
So do we have all those insured then? Is that how that, so this would just roll up under our, whatever our insurance is? Because
Correct.
to Rick's point, I'm a little not concerned, but given where it sits, kids can climb on it.
Mhm.
Frankly, it's just isolated enough. It could be, spray painted, whatever. Like, I'm just thinking through like what liability we take on once we take it, especially if the donor decides, again, donor or CCF is unable or passes away or whatever.
It's
how do we
my
take it?
sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's my understanding that the donor would not be interested in having this piece back because she would not have a place for it in her new residence. So I believe it is a permanent gift. But I can, work through the details of that with Alex Elmstead. But the other part of putting it in Anderson Park is that, we are looking at doing a fruit orchard in Anderson Park. So we also want to activate that park as well with more amenities and not just the dog park. So I think the more people that are there and have eyes on what's happening down there, the better.
No, and that makes sense. I think to the extent that Alex can work through some of this negotiation with the donor to cover some of that, and it's in writing, I think, and if they're not, they're not. It's just good to know.
Sure. Yeah, I believe it's intended to be a permanent donation.
Okay, thanks.
Can I add, Jeff, when I was, I think, the pro bono lawyer for CCF in the past, we always had on all the art pieces, a separate agreement. I would usually do the first draft, send it over to Kevin for the city perspective. And I can say the bottom line always was that CCF would do everything it could to have zero liability, zero, because it, for exactly the reason you said, never really was going to be a good target for any future actions. It was basically CCF. There were three-party agreements, CCF, the city, and the donor. And invariably the city, it became city's responsibility because the reality was CCF wasn't going to be the guarantor of any of this stuff. So it basically transferred any interest it had over to the city. But again, it varied from donation to donation, and I have no idea what document is in place with reference to these pieces.
So
I think it was remiss in not mentioning thank you to CCF when I saw you sitting there. But that did come up at the meeting. I don't remember the exact conversation, but whether it would be a loan or a gift, but that CCF knew it was going to work on the agreement, which they've done in the past to make sure all those types of issues were addressed. I's dotted, T's crossed.
like, I like the idea of the art. I just wanted, I'm just thinking through, like, if it's going to be, if it defaults to the city's responsibility, I just want to make sure we're all kind of aware that, like, we're taking that on. And if it's not, then great, let's pass it off to CCF or the donor or whomever. I just wanted to kind of clarify. So thank you. Thanks, Gary.
Without wishing to prolong this any more than necessary. First of all, the city is protected by sovereign immunity for most tort claims. One exception is if there is a dangerous condition on public property. And if that art piece is there and is dangerous, it doesn't matter whether we own it, we permit it to be placed there, who owns it. Anyone injured would look to all potential parties for coverage. And it would be covered by the city's blanket insurance coverage over all of city facilities. And I don't think it would make a meaningful difference to the underwriting of the city's insurance coverage.
I think it's a great piece. I think it's a really great way to activate that entrance to the park. I think it's a great scale too. You know, it's a little over 4 feet or whatever. But I think it'll be a great addition to that entrance. I guess the other thing, I wish we could get Clayton, you know, on that park entrance. I think that would be something we should do just so that it isn't confused with Ladue, especially if we want to, you know, amplify the usage of it. So
Sure. That's something we can look into, definitely.
Anybody else? Alderwoman Buse?
Okay, with sincere appreciation to our donor as well, I move to approve resolution 2025-28, approving a request from the Clayton Community Foundation to install donated artwork sculptures at Anderson Park.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Even though David's not here, there was a question, him and June were talking about, we have meetings scheduled, the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. We also have a meeting scheduled December 23rd. Is everybody, amenable to perhaps canceling those? That will probably make our other meetings that month a little heavier. But if everybody's all right with that, presumably, you know, David's looking out, so he knows kind of what's coming. So is everybody okay with?
I'll be here because the kids have school, but
Yeah.
love to not.
Right.
But yeah, I'm fine canceling.
Yeah. What do you say? Yeah, I think if something comes up, we'll, have to do something, but yeah. Okay, great, thanks. That is the end of our agenda. We can go around kind of quickly if anybody has anything to report from committees or commissions they've been at.
Not much, because I think we just covered the two of mine. The Arts Advisory Council had met last week, and prior to that, it was the Planning Commission, and that was the dry cleaning, the lot consolidation were the big items there. Just two quick things to add is with Sustainability Commission, I was aware that Ameren UE gives free house energy audits. And so I finally called to get our 1921 house energy audited, which is quite a problem when you've got that, which is all masonry, and then you've got the addition that was put on in 1985, which sounds new, but it was really interesting, counting number of windows and how to do certain things with the house. So, and it's free. And they gave me free light bulbs and a new power cord and everything else. So if you want that, go ahead and call Ameren and it'll give you an energy house audit.
Nice.
The other thing, we were just back from visiting my daughter in Denver, and we went to two amazing street markets where one was in a small town outside of Denver and one was right in the city center. Very, very different, and both closing those streets worked beautifully, and the people came out and the strollers and the all ages. And activating streets like that in those two very different environments is a really exciting thing. So I hope we keep focusing on looking at how to best do that here. Finally, the Cool Cities event is next week on Tuesday, the 21st, 10 a.m. at Beyond Housing. And again, it's urban trees and native plants and community resiliency. So hopefully some of us can go.
Thanks.
Awesome. We had a ward coffee in Ward 1 at Captain Elementary, thanks to the school district for letting us use their space, and June for organizing it for us. We had a good attendance, about 10 people or so. I don't know, it's pretty typical for when we do this. The main topics that we talked about were tornado response and recovery, the charter amendment, and the upcoming town hall. I think the overwhelming response, or what we heard from people from my perspective, was that they were just still having a lot of like positive feelings about the city's response to the tornado. We didn't have anybody actually who was really complaining about anything related to it, which is always nice. So appreciation for the staff and everything. The things that came up were some people have been seeing coyotes, and I didn't suggest that we would do anything about that. I don't think that there is anything for us to do, but if there, you
Yeah,
know,
I've seen them.
yeah, I mean, it's, yeah. I'm just glad we don't have a lot of deer like the
Yeah,
other rest of the
as well.
county. And some conversation, and of course Matt left, about people driving the wrong way on one-way streets. I don't personally see this very much in, like, they were saying sort of like the Des Moines area and then over like St. Rita and stuff like that, where we have the one-ways. But one of the things that I was thinking is we could just kind of review, so I'll send a note to Matt too about like, have we reviewed lately, like what our signage is, or like, are there things we could put actually on the street that would be a little more obvious? There seemed to be a mixture, but a general belief that it's often happening because people don't seem to realize it, as opposed to that they're being disruptive, dangerous drivers. So I don't know. Not a big deal. And as often seems to happen, a lot of the topics, there was a lot of conversation about the school district. And that's always challenging because obviously we aren't the school district and we don't have any authority over them. So we talked about that, but we did have a member of the school board who lives in our ward who was there and was able to talk a little bit, but also did not dominate the meeting. So it worked out well. It was a great session. Yeah.
I was gonna say, there's still a yard sign talking about the coffee at Des Moines and Wydown.
I took it down tonight.
Oh, you
by the
did?
way.
Because I was saying you could we could cover it up to have it be for the town hall now.
Yeah, well, I've got them in my car, so we can keep reusing them. Yeah.
Can I add, you mentioned that Matt was gone and he's actually at Oak Knoll Park because we've been trying to get the dark sky certification for the park. And the person who's handling it left and somebody else is doing it and they don't like the way we shield our lights. And so Matt's there taking pictures of showing that the light does actually still go down and we're not polluting upwards. And so he's out there with different cameras because the last cameras we tried didn't work. So thank you to Matt.
Yes, well, that's good.
That's where he is
I
right
was
now.
actually hoping he had gone home to kind of rest and
Yeah,
relax, but
Not quite yet.
No, he's out working for the city.
out working, yeah. Alderman Vader?
Davis Place had its annual meeting. Kami and I were there with members of the police department to report on things. Had about 20 people in that sort of outdoor forum behind Merrimack School. So most of the people then went immediately from there to their chiropractor due to the very hard concrete seats. But anyways, that was a good evening. Then, by the way, the Polo annual meeting is coming up, I think, early in November. I think they're going to choose an indoor location, which would probably be wise. I don't know if it's been mentioned at the Plan Commission meeting. I think it was the last one. David Schlafly was getting his conditional use permit for his short-term rental which I think is exciting because he said both to me before the meeting, but then to the whole commission that he's really interested in some type of entertainment on the first floor of that building at Merrimack and Forsyth. He didn't exactly say jazz club, but seemed like something very similar to that. And so anyway, he seemed very excited about it. He went someplace visiting his daughter in Kansas City or somewhere, saw something, loved it, wants to bring it here. So anyway, I thought that was pretty neat. Taylor Park, if it hasn't been mentioned, was the Ward 3 block party. I think was very successful. That park really lends itself well because it's kind of a big circle and people were able to walk around, and I think it seemed to have a good crowd. I left early because I was going to a program for Focus St. Louis, and while crossing the street, I ran into Myron, who was there, who was also in the Focus St. Louis program. They are having, it's the 50th anniversary of the Leadership St. Louis program, 45 years of women in leadership. I don't know what program were you in, Myron? You were a different program. Yeah. So anyways, it was a very nice turnout. It was at the new Commerce Bank facility at their tower with the big open area. So it was a lovely facility. The last thing I might mention is we seem to have almost, if not weekly, monthly meetings of the Municipal League going over the legislative session that's coming up in January. I think the reason they do this is because they ask their membership in November essentially to approve the priorities of what they want their lobbyists to really be working on in the coming session, or mostly what to defend against in the coming session. So if I didn't mention it last time, just so you know, the Municipal League has members from a variety of different cities. See if I can find my list here. Just so you know, it's not, of course, all the 80 cities we have, but just on this committee alone, we have representatives from Clayton, obviously, Manchester, Ferguson, Frontenac, Clarkson Valley, Crestwood, Northwoods, Belnor, Webster Groves, Glendale, Manchester. The mayor there is the chairman, De Pere, and Baldwin. So it's a very broad spectrum of communities throughout the area. The priorities, which they listed, and I won't go through them again because I did the last meeting, but the biggest one, of course, is anything dealing with property tax or sales tax. Constant concerns that Jeff City is somehow trying to, in any way it can, to change the formulas for property tax or sales tax. Very concerned because it has a rural bent of trying to protect its citizens, and so there are a lot of concerns. There's the usual concern about of tax on groceries. The people who are at the meeting today, lobbyists, people think that that's still not going anywhere. It hasn't gotten out of the House in the last two sessions. But the impact of that alone, if it were ever to be eliminated, they project statewide $1.3 billion would be lost. And just looking at some of the proposals for property tax restructuring, it's even a larger amount. We're talking billions of dollars. And so it's very important, I think, that the league be very forthright and continue to work on these things. One thing that might be interesting, because it's come up in the Equity Commission, and I would mention, is the whole operation of our municipal courts, still dating back to some legislation post-Ferguson. And one of the things that's come out of that, as I think we know, is that essentially, whereas in the past, a municipal court could issue a warrant for various kinds of traffic infractions, which of course we have lots of in Clayton because we have many people coming into the business area. That's essentially been outlawed. You can't issue a warrant for almost any kind of what is considered a minor traffic infraction. But what they are really dealing with now is that if you get a ticket, for example, for failure to have a license plate, you don't show up on the day of court, there is no actual penalty at that point. You can't issue a warrant, and there's no such thing as a failure to appear warrant. And so what they are trying to do is modify this legislation to create essentially a new infraction for which you could issue a warrant, and that is failure to appear, because many of the municipal courts are finding that they are basically kind of toothless in dealing with any of these kinds of infractions, because there's a big limit on what the fine could be. You have no ability to issue a warrant there clearly was in the past, there was a problem with way too many bench warrants being issued. But now you're at a point where essentially you have no warrants whatsoever. I know Steve Strum, our judge, is coming to the Equity Commission, I think, next month to talk about his court. But anyway, it's an interesting topic and one that they are working on. So there are other issues that they're looking at. But the meeting of the entire board, I think, is a week from Thursday. And I think generally speaking, once this committee has sort of made its recommendations, there are like 5 or 6 priorities of things that the Municipal League would like to work on. There are, of course, hundreds of things you could work on, but 5 or 6 they want to work on, and it's generally approved at that meeting. But I'm going to be out of town, but it's a week from Thursday at Richmond Heights, at City Hall, I think, or at their one of their facilities in Richmond Heights is going to be the meeting of the Municipal League, and this is one of the things they'll take up. And that was more than 3 minutes, I know, but forgive me.
Thank you.
So the only meeting I had was the one that Becky talked about, which was our Ward 1 coffee, and she did a good job summarizing that. I would just share a couple of other observations I had from the meeting. Perhaps this happens in your wards as well, but we have a number of representatives from the city of St. Louis that will attend our meetings because the neighborhood associations frequently cross those lines. And so some of their observations regarding the whole one-way streets affect, both residents, of course. One of the other observations that inside that meeting, but just in general throughout our ward, many people are very interested in this meeting on the 27th, anxious to learn more, not only about the tornado recovery, but more specifically what we're going to do on Wydown and what those renderings or plans might hold. One of the residents from the city wanted to make sure that we were going to share whatever it is we decide with the city of St. Louis in hopes that the city would buy into that plan or somehow, so it didn't look drastically different. And I'd share that information with David, and I know his intent is at least to share it with the city of St. Louis. It was interesting. One resident expressed concern about our charter amendment regarding removing the city manager from the plan commission because she believed that he had wonderful expertise and was worried that putting an uninformed resident would be dangerous. So I just thought that was an interesting observation. And then the other thing that I noticed, and I noticed it as I drove to the meeting tonight, that is, at least at the time I got here, all the street lights were out from Hanley to Beamiston. And so throughout our ward, especially on Wydown, there are a lot of street lights that are out. And so there's concerns of safety for many people and then what to do walking at night. So I know Becky tried to solve the problem by getting them a helmet with a flashlight or something like that. But seriously, the streetlight situation is an issue, and I know it's a complex and complicated and expensive one to fix. And so it's going to get worse during the winter months, and I know we're not going to get there. So it's just making sure that we have the presence of our police force just to assure people. And I know they're doing it, but I just want to emphasize that. So.
Yeah, and that is something that I know David and I have talked about because it is really dark. I mean, my husband bikes to work along Wydown all the time, and it's, he goes, but it's a real issue. And I think I'm sure David will be prepared to talk about it or respond to it at the meeting, but we're just going to have to tell, it could be 9 or 12 months before we really see lights, like full lights along there again. Anna might know as well, but I think just preparing people for the fact that it's going to take a while. So
I almost brought it up again because, I noticed even coming here at 6:45 and it's not really deep in winter yet, but it's getting dark and it's not safe. And so I know that the permanent repairs have a long timeline, and I understand there aren't great temporary options. But I would just really love to know we've done everything we can to figure out, are there temporary options? Even if they're not going to be quite as good, I don't expect them to light as well as the permanent option, but would they be better? It gets so dark so early in the winter. Kids are going to be going home from school activities still, and it's gonna be pitch black.
Well, and in particular, just by the schools, whether it's the university or by Wydown or St. Michael, St. George, or all the schools. Just even driving here at dusk, there was a bicyclist that cut across the street, didn't have a light on, barely could see them, pedestrians jaywalking. And so not criticizing what they're doing, but it's hard to see. And so I don't want to have an accident occur first.
I don't have much. Most of my meetings haven't met this week. Susan and I did meet with a couple folks from the school board for coffee, and it was good to, again, continue the dialogue, but also get an update on what their current thinking is vis-a-vis both the athletic place, the individual school boards. And I, my sense is as they've started to see more numbers, some of that thinking is not changed, but they've refined kind of what they're going to list as kind of priority one versus other priorities. So it'll be curious what continues to kind of come out of that. But it was a good hour-long discussion with them. So, I think Susan, I mean, I don't want to speak for Susan, but I walked away having a better sense of kind of what their current thinking is. So that's all I got.
Really was just, had a Parks and Rec meeting, last Monday. Director Tony Searing did a great job just reviewing the, community survey results. Bottom line, the residents have a very positive perception of Clayton, which I think is great. And the satisfaction is much higher in Clayton than in other surrounding communities. So kudos to us for that. And then on an even more important note, we're putting together, Tony's going to put together a task force to help figure out the proper protocol for our refs and our rec league members about hate speech. And that's being said during some of our rec league games. So that's something that is going to be addressed very soon, which is great. And then, yeah, the Ward 3 block party that was last Thursday was great. The feedback, everyone had nothing but positive things to say about it. I think the location was maybe a newer one for block parties. And so I think that a lot of residents that kind of live around there that might not travel down, to the Hanley House or, things like that, we're all there and just really excited that we had an event there. So that's all I have.
I'll just say we had another Shaw Park design meeting, which Gary was at. So that's proceeding. They gave us some kind of ideas, like a little firmer ideas, and we kind of gave them feedback. And then we're meeting pretty quickly again in a few weeks. So that project is proceeding. It's great. The person from Navigate's really good at keeping things on schedule, which is wonderful. I met with a very cute group of fourth grade Girl Scout troop, a captain. That was fun. They have to meet with a government leader to get a certain badge. And then they actually have to do a community project in order to get this certain badge. I can't remember what the name of it was. But that was fun. It was neat to meet with them. We had a Metro Mayor's lunch. Thank you to June for figuring out where to have that within the budget. We had it at Peel. There were some police chiefs there. I'll just, since Al's here, who just have real concerns about Senate Bill 5 because we've got this, juveniles, I think as everybody know, are committing a lot more crimes. They're stealing cars. They have guns they're much more likely to have guns than they used to be. And 87% of them really get immediately released. So there's just that's why we just have constant recidivism. There's just there's just no ability to prevent them from doing this. I think less than 1% are getting, I'm not suggesting they should be tried as adults, but less than 1% of them are actually getting certified to be, to be charged as adults for crimes. So the police chiefs just really kind of, and I think everybody's recognizing that crime from the city, is coming into the county. I think there's a lot more crime in St. Charles than perhaps there had been in the past. So, so we talked a lot about that.
Can you say anything more about what Senate Bill 5 does? Is it?
I think the idea is that I don't know it very well. But I think they're just really advocating more juvenile reform. I don't think they're suggesting that we should, lock more juveniles up, but just trying to deal with the fact. And I think it might be a little bit of like what Gary was talking about, there's just so much serious crime being committed by juveniles right now. And then they literally get immediately released and steal another crime 3 or 4 hours later. So, yeah, so it's,
That is, by the way, one of the other of the.
right.
five or
I'm
six.
sure that was one of the
Yeah,
big
that is
items.
one of
Yeah.
the 6 that.
Yeah. That
innocent-
keeps coming up, but yeah, so. And then Ward 3 Block Party was great. And then, I was also at City Coffee, had their 30th anniversary celebration, this past Saturday, so that was great. And Gallardo was just so appreciative, of the proclamation that June, created. She was just overwhelmed with the kindness of it all. So, so that was great. Very exciting. They had a really great brass band that played for a couple of hours. So it was a lot of fun. So, that is it. Anna, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report.
All right, great. June, anything? No? All right.
So, groundbreaking ceremony for the municipal maintenance facility is the 27th.
Okay, so a lot going on the
10 a.m.
27th. Yeah, great. Motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Anybody opposed? Great.
too quick.